So we've been talking about these 10-episode series, and you know what? I think everyone's been waiting for this one. And welcome back to the heart of the stories we tell. I'm Rob the host, and this is another look deep into what makes a story, a theory on storytelling by a storyteller who believes that every story has merit. And tonight's episode is Game of Thrones, the show that might have started the entire modern look at 10-episode runs. And as I've been starting these off by giving all of these shows ratings, I have to say, Game of Thrones is probably one of my favorite shows on TV right now, so I'm giving it a platinum. It's been a completely faithful adaptation of the book. It might have been one of my mythical ones. So once again, it's stop. Spoiler time. And now, this one's a little different, because there were 10 episodes every season up till now, but this year there's only going to be 7, so it's even shorter. Let me show you the quick teaser for that.
I know what my father was, what he did. I know the Mad King earned his name.
Burn them all! Kill every Targaryen I get my hands on.
Everyone who isn't us is an enemy.
Sir Ilyn, bring me his head.
We are Ironborn. We take what is ours. The Lannisters and their regards.
You don't think I'd let you marry that beast, do you?
I now proclaim Cersei of the House Lannister, protector of the Seven Kingdoms.
Lannister, Targaryen, Baratheon, Stark, Tyrell. They're all just spokes on a wheel. This one's on top, then that one's on top, and on it spins, crushing those on the ground.
The same thing is coming for all of us. There is only one war that matters. The Great War. And it is here.
Martin has created a world and a setting beyond the pale. So let's get started here. What's the setting? Well, the setting is Westeros. And what is Westeros? Well, Westeros is a completely fantasy world with huge, larger-than-life dragons and ice sculptures of walls that are beyond belief. It's an entire world. And you know what? It's beyond our capability of really getting into just how crazy this world is. Whether it's completely fantasy and magical or sci-fi is up to debate, but you might recognize these from the opening sequence of the show, because as the show opens, it shows you the map every week. And then we have characters, and if I listed all of them, we'd be here till next Friday. There's a lot of them, and throughout the season, several of them have died off, but let's just try to run through the most important set of them. The Stark kids. We'll start with the one that's going to be the assassin, or maybe already is the assassin. Then we'll go to the one who's the schemer. And then, after that, we're going to talk about the one who might be a tree, or gonna be a tree. He's a wizard. And then there's the one that may not be the Stark kid himself. Snow. Jon Snow. The family was a little bigger when we met them in Season 1, but most of the others have either died or been severely crippled in some way, both in book and show. But we're going to start off with the fact that the Starks are the most important because they're our main point of views into all of this. And like I said, we're starting with Arya. Arya has lost herself. Arya tried to become no one, and when she couldn't, she realized who she really is. Arya Stark of House Stark. And that important genesis hopefully will lead to something important in the next few episodes. Then we have Sansa. Sansa had almost the exact opposite. All she ever thought about was that she was the princess. She was Sansa Stark. And she had to become something more. Something else, like Arrow would say. Bran, on the other hand, had the worst journey, because he had to learn how to go it alone, and how to become one with nature. And he's one of the characters who can ward in the show, although all of them can in the books. And then there's Jon, and Jon knows nothing. But Jon might just be the prince that was promised, and he's probably the fact that when we talk later about Theme, the person who's going to cut him peace. We also have Davos. He's with Jon and Sansa right now. He's a cool knight. We have Brienne, she's kinda with them right now, although she has closer ties to one of the Lannisters. Let's talk about them. Let's talk about Jaime Lannister, the knight who was kick-ass, the guy who had everything that you could possibly imagine, and the guy who lost it all because he wasn't thinking. And then his younger and smaller brother Tyrion. Tyrion's the master manipulator. He's currently with Daenerys, another main point of view character. And, well, the way he describes himself is he drinks and he knows things. He's kind of a smarmy bastard, but in the show they downplay that. The two of them have a sister, though, and she is nutball crazy and is currently the High Queen. I just saved Cersei for a whole video. Then there are the Greyjoys. They're with Daenerys, too. They've been ousted from their homes. Theon, specifically, has been tortured in multiple ways. But they both believe in Daenerys. Daenerys is the one whose voice says she's going to break the wheel. We'll see. There's also a bunch of secondary characters, ones that I'm not really going to go into and name each one and talk about them, because if you're a Game of Thrones fan, you know these faces. You know the ones that you just want to punch, and the ones that you just wish would show up again, and the ones that just came out of nowhere and you're like, hey, she's badass. And the ones that are enigmatic, the ones that you sit there and go, you better friggin' answer for what the Shadow Baby is before this is over. And then there are the ones that just don't make sense timing-wise, but we'll have to wait and see. But then there's something else to talk about. I couldn't explain the plot in a million hours, because it's that convoluted. But up until last season, at least on the show, it's been straightforward. We've just started to get introduced to the idea of flashbacks, and I get the feeling there's going to be more of them, so a little out of linear storytelling. Now, for point of view, it's hard, because in the books, there are very specific point of view characters, and some of them aren't even alive still on the show. Others are. And there are characters that I think we follow the point of view of on the show that we don't in the book, so it gets very messy when you talk about it. But to be perfectly honest, I'm gonna skip over this just because it's too hard for me to make that distinction. But as hard as that one was, ooh boy, theme and symbolism. Like, seriously, these books are jam-packed full of it. In fact, if you search any of the websites that talk about it, especially here on YouTube, you'll find thousands of hours of things you can digest. Personally, Preston Jacobs has been the one that I read through the most, but it's also the one I disagree with. He believes that the main themes are that war is bad. I personally have a theory that I postulated that this series has more in common with Babylon 5 than it does with a hippie story that Martin wrote before. I think that there's a battle that has to be fought, and I think that the others are the battle that absolutely has to be. But I also do believe that he understands that war is hell, and as such, he writes specifically about one type of war that needs to be fought. The one that is because you fought one before. Specifically, I think that this guy, the Night's King in this TV show, is actually Rambo. You can watch that in my other video. For here, I'm just going to end it by saying that this is probably one of the best shows that I watch on TV. And even still, I don't think it actually compares to the books. So, maybe that's something to be said about that. I do plan on doing reviews once the show gets started again, and I do hope that it's going to spill a lot of beans on what we expect to see in the next book. By the way, George, where's that book? What about you? Are you looking forward to seeing how this story is supposed to end? Let me know in the comments section, and then give me a like and a share and a subscription if you would, so that I can help build a community, because I want to take a look at all the stories, big and small, things like Game of Thrones and The Song of Ice and Fire. Stories that tell us something, and why do they tell it, and why do the writers feel they must. Until the next time, I hope you have a good night, and thank you for journeying with me through the heart of the stories we tell.